And we will take our first question now. This will be from Daniel Alea with Zona Deportiva. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. My first question will be for Kelvin. Kelvin, with this such a short notice changing your opponent, do you think it's for disadvantage for you in regarding your strategy for the fight?
Do I think what? I'm sorry.
¿Crees que para ti sea desventaja el cambio de oponente en último horario respecto a tu estrategia?
Okay, I understand. I'm going to answer it in English. I only feel it's an advantage career-wise. You know, Mike is obviously the former champion, and he's highly ranked, and you know, his position in the UFC is very high, so, you know, this is a great move for my career, but I feel advantage-wise in the fight is very equal. He's coming fresh off a camp, so I imagine he's in good shape, and he's gonna be ready. I don't think it's going to be an easy fight.
Y solo para remarcar un dato curioso, ¿no? Que la segunda vez que cancelas pelea con Anderson Silva, la primera vez fuiste tú. En esta ocasión fue él. No es muy común que pase en esto. ¿Qué piensas al respecto?
No, pues algo un poco irónico, ¿no? Algo un poco chistoso, pero pues han visto diferentes casos en este mundo de las artes marciales que esto sucede, ¿no? Y cosas suceden y pues hay que seguir rolando con el show.
My last question for you will be, this victory, gaining a victory next Saturday, it will take you in a good position for next year to be a contender.
Yes, if I win this fight, it will put me up high in the rankings and hopefully in the conversations to fight for the title. That's ultimately my goal.
Thank you.
Again, that was star one for questions. We'll now move to Jeffrey Harris with 411 Minia MMA.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. First question for Kelvin. You're now fighting a number 2 ranked opponent, and I know getting a last-minute opponent change isn't ideal, but do you think this is a better opportunity for you to possibly get into the title mix a little bit quicker, considering you're fighting a former champion, ranked number 2, and he was just in a title fight with GSP?
Absolutely. I mean, you said it. You know, he's ranked number 2, fresh off his title fight with GSP. I feel like this is an even better fight for my career, and I expect, I expect to be a tough fight.
Hey, me and Kelvin are both very busy. If you got a good question to ask, can somebody ask it? Because these last 2 so far have been bullshit.
Michael, I do have a question for you. Are you really 100% going into this fight, and are you sure you're physically able to make it to this fight, considering you were just in a very physical title fight with GSP? And some will probably say it's not the wise move to take a fight like this against a young up-and-comer like Kelvin Gastelum 3 weeks after fighting GSP.
Well, some people would be wrong. I'm physically... Whose phone is that? Kelvin, can you hear that buzzing? Because it's fucking annoying. I can't concentrate.
I can hear that.
You can? Can you hear that buzzing?
There we go.
Right.
It's gone, I think.
Stop. Listen, yeah, I just had a tough fight, but there it is again. Put your phone on mute. Whoever's phone is doing that sound, because you're killing it for everybody involved. Yes, I feel great. The fight was a week ago. I spar 3 times a week. UFC, they send me to all the doctors. I've had my medicals. I'm physically 100% A-OK. Totally fine,
But, in terms of medicals and getting checked, is that different at all when you have to fight again this quickly after just fighting in a title fight?
What is your question?
Well, you said you've been checked out in terms of medicals and the doctors. When you're doing it again this quickly, when you're fighting again this quickly, is it different? Is the medical process and getting clearance different at all compared to?
No, it's not different. Exactly the same. Listen, the UFC, I'm cleared medically, but the UFC just wanted to make sure that I'm fine, which I am, and that's that. You know, listen, Kelvin's a tough guy. I respect him a lot, and I'm focused on the fight. You know, obviously last week didn't go my way. Best way to rectify that is to get straight back on the horse, so to speak, and try and get back in the win column. Physically, I'm totally fine, 100% fine. Mentally, of course, I'm a little pissed off, you know. So, you know, I want to rectify that, exercise my demons. Best way to do that, I'm a professional fighter, get back in the ring and fight again.
And last question for Kelvin. Did you watch Bisping's fight with GSP at all? And is there anything you noticed you think for how Bisping will match up with you? And how do you think your boxing matches up with Bisping? Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I of course I watched the fight, and we saw vintage, or not vintage, but we saw what Bisping does. He comes forward and he comes to fight. You know, it wasn't an easy fight. GSP said it himself that was the hardest fight he's ever had. Man, I mean, you saw GSP do his take his back and rear naked choke him. I mean, there's not much to it. It was a good fight. Thank you.
We'll now move forward to Damon Martin with FlowCombat.com.
Hey guys, first question for Michael Bisping. Mike, one question I forgot to ask you the other night. You know, you unfortunately have had a history of fighting a lot of guys who have dealt with performance-enhancing drugs. You're getting this fight because Anderson Silva was forced out of the fight with USADA. Now, we don't know the full story, so I don't want to, convict the guy, but I'm curious what your thoughts are on, what a situation like this does to his legacy, kind of as an analyst role for you, Mike, if that's how you got this fight, and obviously Anderson was at one time considered the greatest of all time.
Well, it completely destroys his legacy, in my opinion. There's a lot of people that have short memories, and, they'll just remember his performances. His performances were great. But if you test positive for steroids twice, once you can try and talk your way out of it. Twice, I think the nail's in the coffin, The guy was a cheat, and it's a shame. It's really, really disappointing. I was a huge fan of Anderson Silva. It's just disappointing, and it's a black eye for the sport of MMA.
Mike, you're doing this for yourself. You told me that before, and you said that this is for you. This isn't for anybody else. But I'm curious have you appreciated the reaction you've gotten from people that seem really impressed that you are willing to step up and take a fight like this on short notice. Whether it was off a win or a loss, it doesn't matter. 2 weeks notice is pretty crazy for a guy of your experience to step into short notice. I mean, have you noticed that? Have you appreciated the kind of outpouring of support you've had?
Yeah, absolutely I have. It's kind of hard not to notice it. There's been a lot of positive things said and written, and of course, I appreciate all of that. It certainly makes a nice change from people talking shit. But, as you said, I'm doing this for myself. Yeah, it's great. I'm in the UFC, we're in a hard position, but I'm doing this for me. I don't fight for anybody else. I'm doing it for me and my family, my wife and children. Of course, Kelvin needed an opponent. I'd be lying if I said I'm doing it for Kelvin. Again, I'm doing it for me and my wife and kids. So that's about it, really. Kelvin's a tough guy. He's a great fighter. He's got excellent boxing, strong dude, good wrestling, in shape, and always getting better. So, I'm not expecting a walk in the park, far from it. But, this is what we do. There's no easy fights out there. We're all big, strong alpha males that are trained in martial arts, So, may the best man win in China.
Do you think you'll have a size and a power advantage over Kelvin, considering you have been a middleweight your whole career, and Kelvin obviously has some great wins at middleweight, so I don't want to take anything away from him, but, obviously he's talked about, being more of a natural welterweight. Do you feel like you'll have a size and power advantage in this fight?
I guess I'll have a size advantage. I don't know about power. The just because you're a bit bigger doesn't mean you're necessarily stronger or more powerful. You know, any strength and conditioning coach or any athlete will tell you that. So I'll definitely be bigger. I've got a longer reach. I'm taller. You know, Kelvin's going to definitely be a bit stockier. You know, so it swings in roundabouts. You know, I'm not really looking at it like that. I don't think. I'm not trying to sound like a tough guy, but I couldn't care less about if he was 6'5" or 5'5". It doesn't matter. You know, I just want to get back in there ASAP. And Kelvin, they came up with Kelvin out of the blue, and here we are. You know, am I a bit taller? Yeah. Is he stockier? Yeah. Will he be more powerful? Who knows? I guess we're going to find out.
And a couple questions for Kelvin. Kelvin, kind of the same question I posed to Mike about Anderson Silva. And the reason I ask you, not only because you lost your opponent, but there was that little bit of controversy, back in June where you had to get dropped out of your fight, and he had made kind of a stink about that. And then you guys end up, fighting again, get scheduled again in November, and then he drops out. I mean, did your opinion or whatever of Anderson Silva change, after everything that unfolded in this last, week and a half?
No, not at all. I mean, it's not like, it's not like I dislike Anderson or I like him. I feel indifferent about him. To me, it wasn't surprising that he got caught. And so it's just got to move on with the show. I feel like he definitely tarnished his legacy with this. And, it is what it is. The show must go on.
Yeah. After you had the fight with Chris Weidman, I know you had mentioned the possibility of going back down to welterweight, and that's something, you've said numerous times. You've always intended on going back to welterweight, and then the opportunity came up to fight Anderson Silva. I mean, how are you feeling right now? Like, is this, because if you get a win over Michael Bisping, I mean, that's the last middleweight champion. I mean, you obviously, you would be much closer to a title shot there, or do you still feel like, after this fight, you will explore the possibility of going back to welterweight?
Right. I feel like if I win this fight, then I might have tarnished those plans, I might have just permanently put myself in a position where I'll be fighting for the middleweight title. So, I mean, that's, if I get to fight for the middleweight title, then that's ideal, but I also feel like if I do the right things and I'm able to make the 170 safely and healthy, then I can do it, and I want to fight for that title too.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelvin. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Again, that was *1 for questions. At this time, we will move along to Spencer Kite, UFC.com.
First question's for Michael. Mike, what is it about your mindset and your approach that allows you to thrive in this kind of situation? Obviously, the biggest win of your career is on 18 days notice against Luke Rockhold, and here you are a couple weeks out jumping in against Kelvin.
Yeah, at the end of the day, this is what I've done my entire life. And I guess when it's kind of short notice, it does take a little bit of the pressure off you. Obviously I was fighting last week and I had the belt. That does bring extra pressure. This is just, now it's not about maintaining the champion. Now it's just about going out there and having a good fight. I didn't feel like I performed to the best of my ability last week. So that's why I was keen to get back in there so quickly. I've done this my entire life. I've done martial arts since I was 8 years old. And as I said before, I'm in shape and I'm on weight. I've got no injuries whatsoever. But realistically, I don't see how I could have turned this down. I honestly think this is a win-win situation for me. I get to go out there, I get to get back in the win column, hopefully, get to put on a great fight, remind the world what I'm capable of, and I get paid again. So, it's all positive from my perspective.
And to piggyback off Damon's question earlier, does this feel like, and do you feel like jumping into this fight and the potential of winning this fight, and I know you've talked about fighting again at home one more time, sort of redefine your legacy yet again and sort of reshape the public opinion about you again?
I'll be honest, I don't really think about those things. There's definitely no strategy. That's not what I'm trying to achieve here. As I say, this opportunity kind of came out of the blue. And I was driving down the street, going to lunch with my wife and my in-laws, and I heard it on the radio. And I texted Dana straight away, and then the fight happened. So, there was no real design, there was no conscious effort, there was no sitting down with my management team and trying to think of, how this can define my legacy. It was just, some people play the piano, some people fight. I like to fight. Simple as that. I like to fight, and I haven't got the belt anymore, so fuck it, let's fight.
I assume there was a stern look from Mrs. Bisping when you told her your plans.
Not really. I mean, to be honest, I mean, she knew. Obviously, you put a brave face on it, and at the end of the day, you lose a fight, you lose your belt, whatever. Life still goes on. But she knew I was disappointed. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not that important. No one hangs on to the belt forever, and I recognise that, and I'm a big boy. But yeah, I was a little, annoyed with how things went down. I know I could have done better. And she knows I'm a competitor. She knows I want to do better. And she fully understands me. She has to competitor. She's been with me for 18 years.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. And one for Kelvin, if I could. You mentioned just a second ago that a win here may sort of permanently change your plans of maybe going back to welterweight. Is that something you will commit to one way or the other, or will it just remain that possibility, that asterisk for you?
Well, I can't really say until after the fight. After the fight, that's when you find out what options you have and what you want to do. And so I feel like maybe that question should be asked after the fight.
Do you feel at all like sort of walking that line between the two and holding out the possibility of going back down limits you in either direction at all?
No, I feel like it actually gives me an advantage. If I want to go back down and challenge Tyron Woodley, then I feel I can, and if I win this fight, it puts me right there in the conversations for the title as well. So I feel it's a win-win.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
We'll now go to Harry Kettle with Click on MMA.
Hi guys, my first question is for Michael. Mike, given that you also want to fight in London in March, would you say this stretch of your career has been and is going to be the busiest that it's ever been?
Well, I guess it'll be the busiest 6 months, yeah, for sure. You can't do this forever, and I spoke about this at length going into my last fight. My wife and some of my family wanted me to retire a while ago, so I'm still at it. That doesn't mean that I'm not hungry. I'm not pushing myself. I'm not applying myself in the gym. I train just as hard as I used to. But I've got a lot of things going on outside of the octagon, and I'm proud of what I've achieved in this sport. I became world champion. I defended the belt, and you can't do it forever. Unfortunately, I lost last week. So my title run is over. I said I'd have one more fight in London, and of course, this came out of the blue. So. That's great. I get to compete. I get to try and exercise my demons from last week, as I said, and I get paid again. This is what I do. I'm a prize fighter. But yeah, for sure, man. I guess 3 months. If I fight in March, which I'd like to, that'd be November. Three fights in 4 months. So yeah, for sure, a busy period.
And prior to actually taking this fight, was Kelvin someone that you maybe looked out for generally in the division, or someone that you'd followed the progress of at all?
Obviously, I'm a fan of the UFC. I watch all the fights, and I work as an analyst as well. So, I keep an eye on things. And Kelvin's someone that I've seen. He won the Ultimate Fighter, and he's done great things. And, of course, he struggled making weight to welterweight. He came up to middleweight, and he's looked even better. He made short work of some opponents that's given me trouble in the past. So, I've always had my eye on him. To be honest, when I was champion, he's not somebody that I thought I would be fighting anytime soon, far from it, you know what I mean? But, of course, he was making a lot of noise, and here we are. We're fighting in Shanghai. I'm excited to get out to China. I've got fond memories of fighting in China in the past. I fought Kung Lee, and beat the piss out of Kung Lee out there, who has a lot of similarities. He's a southpaw, he's a shorter guy, he's a stockier guy with good explosive striking, and actually not bad wrestling. It went well, so I got good memories, and hopefully it goes well again. We'll see. No doubt Kelvin has applied himself, and we're going to see a great version. He was fighting Anderson Silva. Everybody always gets up for Anderson Silva, you know what I mean? I'm not expecting an easy fight, far from it.
Thanks, Mike. And my next questions are for Kelvin. Kelvin, do you think that a victory over a guy like Michael Bisping, who recently was the champion, would do even more for your career than a win over Anderson Silva would have done?
Definitely. I feel like this is a much, much bigger fight than the Anderson fight would have been. So, yeah, I feel like this fight is a lot bigger than my previous opponent.
And moving forward into 2018, will you be looking to be as busy as you were this year with 3 fights, or would you like to expand on that and maybe even go for 4?
Oh, God, no. I think after this fight, I need a little break. You know, I've done 3 main events in 12 months, and, you know, it takes a toll on the body, and I feel like I need a little break after this.
And one last question. It's been 4.5 years or so since you upset the odds to some people and won the Ultimate Fighter. Is being the underdog heading into these kind of fights something you prefer because it allows you to just go out there and do your own thing?
Is that a question for me?
Yes.
Well, you know, that's been the story of my career. You know, I've been the underdog in a lot of my fights. Ever since the Ultimate Fighter, I was picked last, for God's sake. So, you know, that's just been the story of my career, and I am more than happy to step up to the plate each and every time.
Thanks, guys. Best of luck next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that will conclude the question and answer session. I'll turn it back to Dave Lockett for any additional closing remarks.